Morning, everybody. Okay, bring yourself to the middle of your mat. Feet hip width apart and parallel. And just let your toes widen out and find the ground. Taking a moment to press your big toes into the floor. Now when you're ready, let's take an inhale and take both arms up to the ceiling, and then exhale as you circle around and down. Breathing in and breathing out. Let your breastbone rise on the inhale. Exhale, round and down. One more like this. And then bringing your hands to your hips. And we're going to rise up onto the toes, if our legs cooperate. That's it. And heels down. Pressing your big toes down to lift your heels. And lowering back down. Expect the first couple to be a bit wobbly, just like mine are this morning. And then once you find your feet, things should start to become a little bit more stable. That's better. Okay, so we're going to be lifting and lowering a few times. And as we rise up, we're lifting our inner thighs up towards our abdominals and then trying to hold them up as our heels lower. Let's try that again. So cueing from the ground up, big toes press down, inner thighs lift, low tummy lifts, and then try to keep that lift through your inner thigh as your heels drop down. Rising and falling. Let's have 4 more like this. Balance improving when the eyes are looking out in front of you and perhaps staying on a fixed point. Let's finish with that one. And on the next one, we're going to rise and hold. And keeping your heels up, you're now going to bend your knees forward. Then drop your heels down and then straighten your legs. Let's do that again. We're going to rise up onto the toes. Bend your knees forward. My heels are still high. Bring my heels down and then straighten my legs. Up I go. Then my knees. Then my heels down. And then my legs straighten. Let's do one more like this. And then we'll reverse the sequence and go the other way. Okay, so we're now going to bend the knees. Our heels are down. Then you'll lift your heels up, push your legs straight. You're going to rise up onto high heels, and then the heels will come back down to the floor. Knees bending, heels lifting, legs straightening. Woo! Heels dropping. I'm going to turn side on so you can see. We've got knees bending, heels lifting, legs straightening, and then heels lowering. One more like this. Bending, lifting the heels, rising up, pushing the big toe down, and then lowering the heels back down to the floor with control. Let's just have a few little bends. Step back with one of your legs and let your calf stretch. Doesn't matter which leg. And then step back in and step back out on the other. So pushing that back heel right down into the ground. Both my feet are pointing forwards. My front leg is ever so slightly bent. Step that back leg in. Let's take our arms back up to the ceiling again. Grabbing onto one wrist, doesn't matter which one. Lift it up and let yourself side bend over. And then you'll come back up, lift the other wrist, side bend over. Breathing into the side body. And then all the way back up. Circle your arms around their back on your hips again. Take one of your feet, lift the heel just a little bit. My toes are still on the ground. I'm going to hike that hip up and then drop it back down. And I'm going to repeat that hip hike a couple of times, lifting on one side and lowering back down. And I'm trying to get my low back to feel like it's doing the pickup. Often when these muscles are super tight, they get themselves locked up and they don't move very much. So here we are trying to create a bit of a muscle squish so that we can then relax it and then feel the contrast between a lot of tension and then not very much tension. Also, it should improve blood flow to that area. Let's have 3 more, lifting and lowering. It's from the low back muscles. They feel like they squeeze up to lift the hip, and then you relax and let it drop down. 2 more. Very little help from your foot that's on the ground. Last one. And then down that hip comes. Let's take both arms up to the ceiling. Grab the same wrist that was the working hip side. And we're going to side bend out into that side and give it a stretch. And then we're coming back up to the center, circle round, hands to your hips, and we'll do the other side, hiking up and dropping down. So my heel is lifted, my toes are on the ground. I'm trying to make my low back muscles pick my hip up, hip hiking. Trying to get a bit of tension or increase the tension on that side so that I can feel the contrast between a lot of tension and then no tension. And to be honest, this side is harder, doesn't really want to contract. And then when I try to relax it, it feels like it's not that different. So you'll probably find one side quite different to the other. Let's do 2 more. That's better. And last one. And then I'm going to drop that heel down. I've got a leg shake now. Okay, let's take both arms up to the ceiling. We're grabbing the same wrist as the working hip hike. So for me, that's my left and left. And side bending and letting it stretch out. And then circling round on an exhale. And arms are now by my sides. I'm going to do a roll down. I'm going to take a breath in here. And then chin to chest. And rolling all the way down to the floor. Now take a moment to let everything feel like it's falling out at the top of your head. So lengthening your neck, letting the crown point at the floor. Relaxing through the back body and through the neck. And then from your pelvis, a pelvic tilt to pull your weight back up again. So it feels like big toes pressing down, inner thighs lifting, tailbone dropping under. Let's rise up with the arms and circle them around. Another roll down, chin to chest. Using your exhale as you roll down, letting your abdominals draw inwards or as you breathe out. Another dangle, neck relaxed, crown to the floor, everything falling out the top of your head. Some deep breaths. Back of your pelvis broad. Tailbone under. Let's roll back up. All the way up to standing. Arms go up to the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale, circle round. This is the last roll down on an exhale. So I'm going to breathe into prep. I roll myself down as I breathe out. And with this one, we're going to add in some knee bends. So I'm going to turn side on so that you can see. I'm going to bend my knees and tuck my tailbone right underneath me. It's fine to use my arms hooked into the back of my knees to increase the stretch.
And then I'm going to push my feet down to lift my hips up. My legs straighten. I bend my knees and tuck my tail under. My arms are going to help. And then I push my feet down to lift my sit bones up. And again, knees bending, tailbone under, round your low back, deepen the curve. And then push the feet down, send the sit bones up. Pelvis broad at the back. Last one, tailbone under. And then legs straight. Okay, rolling all the way back up to standing so that we don't get too lightheaded being upside down. Both arms go up to the ceiling, breathe in. Exhale, circle your arms around and down. And then when you're ready, you're going to bend your knees and come down to seated. I'm going to plonk myself right in the middle of the mat. Okay, feet flat, hands on the outsides of your knees, sit bones underneath you. And let's start off by just taking a few deep breaths here. So you're going to breathe in and let your breastbone rise as you inhale. And then try to keep it fairly lifted as you breathe out. And let's do that again. Breathing in, let the inhale lengthen your spine. And then resisting collapse as you breathe out. So holding yourself up. And again, breathing in, let your spine be lengthened. And breathing out. Okay, let's start our first set of rollbacks, and we're going to pelvic tilt with a lengthened spine just to the length of your own arm. Roll all the way through and then back up to seated. Pelvic tilt from your sit bones to behind your sit bones, just to the length of your own arm. And then rolling through onto the sit bones. Breathe in to sit tall. Off you go again. Tailbone under, rolling back. Inner thighs lifting, low tummy lifting. Sit bones pressing down to bring yourself to the start position. And tilt back again. And rolling up. 2 more like this, and then we're going to hold. Big toes gently pressing down. It feels like a 3 out of 10 effort from the legs. Last one, and we're going to hold back here. Okay, a gentle press with your hands. There's no grabbing, so that we can lift one leg into tabletop and then put it back down. And then the other one, and put it back down. And we're just going to go from side to side in your own time. One leg and then the other. I like to inhale as I lift and exhale as my leg goes back down. I breathe in to lengthen my spine. I breathe in to lift my breastbone. So I'm using the breath to help me stay lengthened. If it doesn't work for you, just breathe as you will. Let's have 4 more. And 3. And 2. And 1. Rolling all the way back up to seated. Sit bones pressed down. And inhale lengthens you up. And then let's rock our legs in the socket to get rid of any tension that we don't need before we do the next set. Just breathing naturally and trying to soften any gripping around the top of your leg.
Okay, last one, and then coming back for our second set. So we'll do a couple of centering rollbacks just to get ourselves all in the right place. Rocking back, rolling up. So 3 more. Lengthening your spine into a long C curve. So it shouldn't feel like we slouch back. It feels like we pick ourselves up into this lengthened C curve. And rolling through. This is the last one, and we're going to hold on this one and add in our leg lift and place it down, and the other leg and place it down. Okay, these leg lifts are going to get a little bit fancier. We're going to pull it in, send it out, pull it in, and then place it down. Ideally, the hands are relaxed, pressing gently on the sides of the legs. The foot that's on the floor is pressing down to help you find your center. Makes my voice go a bit funny. A good inhale can also open up your back and help you form your long C curve. Let's do one more on each side. Making sure that your breath is moving in and out, and roll all the way back up to seated. And let's take another leg rock in the socket to loosen off any tension we don't need. We've got one more set to do, and it's an arm set. So our legs are now going to be staying on the ground. Okay, so we're back here. Hands on the sides of your knees. We've got our pelvic tilt and we roll back. Let's have 3 more. Centering ourselves, ready for our arm sequence. So taking our time to tidy up. So we've got a gentle foot press, inner thighs lifting, working with our breath. This is the one we're going to hold. Pelvic tilt, roll back, hold here. One arm comes up, one arm goes down, other arm up, other arm down. So focal points are big toes into the ground. It's a gentle press, 3 out of 10. Inner thighs lifting towards your pelvis. Low tummy lifting to help your C curve. And the work should build up in your upper abs, no doubt. Let's have 1 more each side, and then something slightly harder to finish. So we've got this left arm, and then we're out into T arms and back in again. Let your shoulder blades move on your back. It's not easy to talk while doing this. So I'm going to be quiet. 3, 2, last one. And then rolling all the way back up to seated. And from there, all the way down to the mat. Stretch yourself out fully, arms and legs, and let your abdominals and your hip flexors take a stretch. Okay, arms by your sides, feet on the floor. Going to begin with the basic knee float, lifting it up, placing it back down. If you struggle to feel the work with your knee float, put a bit of resistance against your leg with your own hand and push against it. And hopefully that will make it easier to feel the work in your abs. We're just going to go from side to side, one leg and then the other. And for these knee floats, I'd like you to try and keep your pelvis level and still. Let's have 4 more. Losing my voice. And 3. And 2. And 1. And then on this one, the right leg will stay up. The left leg will come up too. Take both your knees and pull in towards your chest. Try to keep the back of your neck long. A few deep breaths here. And then from here, we're going to take our hands behind our head and do a set of reverse curls. So we're lifting the back of our pelvis up off the ground. And bringing our knees towards our face. Right. The focal point for this is that the abdominals shouldn't feel like they just bunch up into a big tensioned mess. So allow your abdominals to lift up the length of your body so it feels like they're pulling your pubic bone towards your belly button rather than just bunching themselves up in tension. There's a direction to the pull. Not easy to talk at the same time. Let's have a couple more. And 2. And 1. Let your head and shoulders come down. Keep hold of your right leg. And then let your left leg straighten away down to the mat. Give that leg you've got a hold of a bit of a stretch. So you're going to pull it in towards you. And let the other one really lengthen away. And then we're going to set that knee over the hip. And it's fine for your shin to dangle down like mine is. It doesn't need to be held up. If you know you want to work harder, you can straighten the leg to the ceiling. I'm going to be demoing the easy version with my shin dangled down. I'm going to circle the thigh bone around the socket called knee stirs. And if you can't feel the ab work, you can do what you did before and use your hand to create some resistance. So you'll be able to create resistance as your knee tries to come towards you. And you're going to pull it towards you from your abdomen. It feels like your abdominals have to create uplift to help your leg create uplift. Let's have 2 more. And then change direction and go the other way, circling around. And if you struggle to get your leg to cross the center line, it's fine for the other hand to help it across a little bit. You should get a stretch on the outside edge of your hip as that happens. And you might be fine just with your hands on the floor and your leg doing its own thing. Whatever happens is okay. Let's grab onto that knee and pull it in. And then putting the opposite hand on the outside of the knee, we're going to rock it away. So if I've got hold of my right leg, I'm rocking it to the left. To stretch the side of my waist. And it might feel good to turn your head to look the other way. Let's have 2 more. And we're going to come back to the center and place that leg down, slide it out, bring the other one in, pull first in for a stretch. Just breathing. And then placing the knee over the hip. And then we circle. figuring out what our own leg needs to help it make the most of the circle. So if you're dealing with a tight leg or unresponsive abs, you can increase the stretch with some help from your hand and the responsiveness of your abs with a bit of help from your hands. Change direction and go the other way. Three, 2, and 1. And then take your hand across the body to the outside of the knee, drop the foot down and rock over. If you want to turn your head the other way, go ahead and do so. Helps with stability. And then we're coming back to the center. We're going to keep that knee in. We're going to bring the other knee in and we're going to give them a hug. And also lift our head and shoulders and maybe our shoulder blades off the ground as we create that hug. And then keeping your head and shoulders up. Keep hold of your right leg and straighten your left one. Little surprise ab exercise to finish the sequence. And change. So we're changing the hand grip to whichever knee is coming towards us. And maybe we could breathe in on one leg and breathe out on the other. Let's have 4 more. 2 more. Last one. Head and shoulders down. Feet on the ground. Slide your legs away. Stretch your arms out for a stretch. Roll to the side and push yourself up. Sit in the middle of your mat. Feet to the corners of your mat. Reach forward and stretch through your spine. Uncurl all the way back up. So it's completely fine to either have your hands on the floor. It's a gentle slide down the floor. Or your arms up at around about shoulder height in the air. And we're going to mess around with our foot position. We're going to do one pointed. And then we're going to do one flexed. And one pointed. And one flexed. All the while, the eyes look down to the mat. So we're always in a C curve as we do our forward bend. One more. All the way back up to seated. And then let your legs come in, feet together for an inner thigh stretch. The soles of your feet touching. Knees out to the side. And a little bit of a rock from side to side. It doesn't have to be a big movement. I'm just trying to get rid of any gripping. It's very difficult for your body to grip when you're doing something slightly unexpected. Okay, I'm just moving my hands around so that I can create a focal point on the other side. And then let's have one leg out, one leg in, and a little forward bend. And switch those around. We'll do that one more time on each side. It's like a half wide leg stretch. So on this one, your right leg is going to stay out to the side. And then when you sit yourself upright, the left leg will go out too. Sit your bottom back so it feels like you're leaning ever so slightly forwards. And then bring yourself upright. Let's go over to one side for a stretch. And then using the hand that's on the floor, let it propel us up and over to the other side.
Just toing and froing from side to side. One more each side. And then we're going to come back to the center, bring the legs together, tuck them around, and lay down on your side. Excuse me. Right. I particularly like having my head down flat like this. I find it a bit stressful on my neck to be propped up by my hand. So ideally, I'm going to cue head down to keep your neck relaxed. If you need to put a cushion in the gap, that's fine. Hand on the floor for stability. My knees are bent. My feet are on top of each other. And we're going to start off by opening and closing. And trying to keep your body in alignment. So it's head over heart, over hips, over heels. And the strength for this exercise comes from your ability to press things down into the floor. So let's just do a little body scan and see what we can press down. So we've got the side of our hip. So you're going to push that downwards and notice how the down push helps lift your knee up. So that's the first thing. We've also got the side of our rib cage and underneath our armpit. That could also press down a little bit. So it's not pressing down so much that it lifts your head up. It's just finding the floor and trying to stay connected to the floor. We can also do the same with your arm, just a little bit. The effort level from the ribs and the arm is probably about 3 out of 10. It's not much. But that down push really stabilizes you. The final down push is from this front hand. And it's going to suction itself onto the floor and press down 3 out of 10. So we've got all of these down pushes: hip, rib, arm, hand. And if we want something to go up, all those things have to go down. Okay, let our heels float. And we're carrying on. And then we're going to open the knee out and hold it, and we're going to straighten the leg and bring it back in. Four, and 3, and 2, and 1. Heels together, knees close, let the feet drop back down. You're going to roll onto your front. You're going to come up into 4-point kneeling. We're going to do a quick set of box push-ups. So we have our hands underneath the shoulders and the elbows are going to bend back towards our legs. If you want the exercise to feel harder, you can take your knees a little bit further out. Puts a bit more weight onto the system and makes it a little bit harder. Let's have 4 more, and 3, and 2, and 1. Okay, knees back underneath your hips. Sit back into a shell stretch. And we're going to turn ourselves around and do the other side. So we've got our long, lengthened out spine, knees bent. And before we start any movement, we've got to put everything on that line. So it's head, heart, hips, heels. And then it's oysters to begin with. My feet are on the ground, just opening and closing. And then I'm going to begin that downward pressing focus. So I've got my hips. Do one thing at a time to begin with. Pushing my hips down. Noticing how my body responds to that. And then adding in a bit of rib and a bit of underarm. It's gentle pushing. And then the hand that's out in front of me, that pushes down as well.
And then I'm going to lift my heels up or my whole foot up to make it harder. Let's have two more. And then we're going to hold the knee up. So here we are. To hold it up strong, we have to have a strong push down off the side of the hip. So it's a pushing down into the floor and off your hand too. Straighten and bend. And straighten and bend. Oh, that feels heavy. Let's have four more. And 4. And 3. And 2. And the last one. Bend your knees in, let your knees drop down. I'm going to roll onto your front again. We're going to have a second set of push-ups. So we've got our choices. We've got our box push-up, or we can have the knees a little bit further away. And if we're feeling very strong, we can bring our hips right down onto a diagonal. Whichever one you pick, the elbows are going to bend back towards you. So here I am in the easiest version. Here's me thinking about making it a little bit harder, but I'm not yet ready to diagonal. And here's me right back in my diagonal with my hips down. And I can adjust how difficult it feels by how much I bend my elbows. So a small elbow bend will make it feel easier, and a big elbow bend, whoop, will make it feel harder. Let's have one more. And then sit back into a shell stretch. Let's walk both hands around to the right. Lengthen out through the side of your waist. And into the rib cage. And then walking the hands around to the other side. Let's do that one more time each side, all the way over. And the other way. And then we're up into 4-point kneeling. We'll do a thread the needle. Nice little click in my back there. A happy click rather than a worrying click. And then changing sides. Again, let's do one more each side. See if the second set feels any different. And then the final side. Okay, back up to 4-point kneeling. We're going to curl our toes underneath us and stretch out the soles of our feet. Just giving your legs a moment to respond to the shape. Noticing where you feel the stretch and whether the stretch actually migrates anywhere. So you might just feel it in the sole of your foot, but also you could feel it in your calf or further up. And then rolling onto the soles of your feet. So we're walking back and rolling our feet down, pushing our feet down and lifting our sit bones up. Here we are in a forward bend. And then we're going to roll all the way back up to standing. Take a moment to find ourselves, if we've got a light head. And then once we're back in the room, you're going to press your feet down onto the floor and lift your hands up to the ceiling and hold a balance. Arms come down, heels come down, shoulder roll, and an arm shake to get rid of any tension you don't need. to finish. Thank you very much for joining me. Good to see you. Bye.